Hey guys, it's your friendly neighborhood iHenry. Welcome back to another episode. Today I am going to give you 4 reasons why you should install iOS 13 Beta 1. Let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to give you 4 reasons why you should install iOS 13 Beta 1. And if you're interested in installing iOS 13 Beta 1, I will be talking about that later on at the end of this video, so stay tuned if you are wanting to install iOS 13 Beta 1. Alright, so coming at number 1 on the list, it's the most talked about feature with iOS 13, and that's, well, dark mode. Dark mode is the most talked about feature. With iOS 13, with dark mode, it really changes the entire color scheme of your phone. I mean everything. So when it comes to the settings app, when it comes into the notes app, everything has a redesign for dark mode. A lot of this goes down to the color scheme of the different widgets and the different color icons that are found on the screen to the very core of the display. So on apps like the settings app, it is going to be pitch black in terms of the background, and then the foreground and all your options are going to be kind of this dark gray. It's nothing like Twitter's old dark mode, where it's kind of like this blue tint. When you're looking on an iPhone with an OLED panel, it's going to be a deep black. But thanks to dark mode, it is a whole lot easier to read the fine print on a lot of different things you might be reading or watching, for that matter. It's a lot easier to read. Now, the only thing that has not been implemented with dark mode is Safari. So kind of like when you're in incognito mode on Safari, it does make the top bar like this dark mode-esque type feel, but the whole rest of Safari is not in dark mode. So if you go on Google's website and Google search, it's not going to make that dark. In terms of the different settings within Safari, those will be dark mode. Notification center for all different applications on your phone, those will be in dark mode. So really everything but some applications third-party wise are not going to be dark mode until websites and different third-party apps start supporting iOS 13. But regardless, it looks pretty dope. Like, hands down. A lot of applications that I am so used to having to squint my eyes whenever it was either late at night or whenever I am in a bright LED environment and can't see or read the screen for that matter, it's so much more enjoyable to have this option on the phone, even if I don't use it constantly, which surprisingly I'm not. A lot of this is because if I am outside in daylight or if I'm at the gym, typically I will not have it in dark mode. But as soon as I am either at work or if it's when I get home really late, I have dark mode enabled and it's a lot easier to read at those times. So the second thing on the list is the Photos app. The Photos app got a whole new redesign. It looks so much better. It's a lot easier to view and share photos. And what I haven't really seen many YouTubers kind of mention is the actual photos, because before you would have to go to albums in order to see what's actually on your phone and the camera roll album. Now there's an actual tab just called Photos. Whenever I'm talking to customers and they're like, oh, where are my photos on my phone? I just upgrade to iCloud storage. They're like, where are all my photos? So now there's an actual Photos tab found within the Photos app. So now when a user upgrades their phone to iOS 13 and they're like, where are my photos? they can literally look at that tab and say, oh, it says photos. These are my photos. There's no longer a camera roll tab found within the Photos app, but the actual Albums tab is the exact arrangement that it was before, but it's really the Photos section that gets this whole redesign. So when you scroll down through different videos or different live photos found within your album, it'll automatically play those, and it looks really nice, kind of reminiscing on some old moments within the Photos app. So it's really nice taking a look back at a lot of your old photos. So it's really reminiscent of good memories. So coming at number 3 is the Control Center. Just to throw this in there before I start talking more about the Control Center, yes, the volume is no longer in the center of the phone. It is now on the side, and when you start moving the volume, you can actually tap on this guy, move it up and down to adjust the volume. To get into number 3, the Control Center, so there are a lot of now, I like to call this the ease of access feature. So within the Control Center, you can now access all the widgets completely without the Settings app. Not saying that was taken out of the Settings app, but before, if you wanted to change the Wi-Fi settings, you had to open the Settings app and pick which Wi-Fi you want. Now, if you 3D press on the display, it will go ahead and show you your Wi-Fi options. Now, I say 3D press instead of 3D touch because 3D touch is not on iOS 13 beta. But don't worry, I'll be talking about that in my next video where I talk about 4 reasons why not to download iOS 13 beta. So stay tuned for that video, and I'll talk to you more about what happened to 3D touch and what the next step is forward. So to go back into the Control Center, so if you 3D press any of these options, you'll be able to see, well, your options without opening the Settings app. So on iPhones like the iPhone 10, iPhone XS, and iPhone XS Max, and iPhone XR, where you swipe up from the top right-hand corner, and then for iPhones with the home button, you swipe up from the bottom. On the Widgets tab, where you see airplane mode, cellular, Bluetooth, and Wi-Fi, you just long press on that, and it'll show you your different options here. And then if you long press on any of these, it'll give you a list of options to choose from. What's really nice about the Bluetooth tab is I can see all of my Bluetooth devices even when they're not connected. So any Bluetooth device that I am currently still connected with my phone, I can check it here, tap on it, and connect to that Bluetooth device. It's really helpful to be able to see that within the Control Center. So the last thing I want to talk about is redesign stuff. 3 in particular that I would like to mention in this video: Maps, Reminders, and Health. So just to skim over what they look like a lot better. So a lot of what has to do with the Health app and Maps is ease of access. So with the Health app, you're able to really just see all the data that you need instead of, oh, I'm just going to tap on stuff and just guess on what I need to work on. With the Health app, it's going to give you a general idea of, okay, I'm doing this really well. Oh, I'm not doing this really well. Where, oh, I'm in a really loud noise environment. Which, speaking of which, I actually got a notification for that. So within the Health app, I actually got a lot of noise notifications. So within iOS 13, connected to the Apple Watch with watchOS 6, now it can read the amount of decibels for the sound levels within the environment that you're in, just using the microphone on the Apple Watch. I am actually in a lot of really loud environments caused by myself. So I'm either playing music really loud on purpose, or I'm blasting music in the car. That's actually hurting my That's actually hurting my hearing, and I didn't even realize that. I mean, sure, I like to blast music when driving down the highway within my car, but I never thought it would actually hurt my hearing health as much as it has been. So I don't know what it's going to tell me when iOS 13 and watchOS 6 comes out in the fall and I get that installed, if it's going to give me the same information like, hey, you got to turn down this volume, or if it's going to give me new information where it's like, what are you talking about? I never said that. So I'm really curious to see what changes with that. So I'll keep you updated on that. So the next part of that is the Reminders app. I'm not going to talk about too much about the Reminders app because honestly, it looks the same to me. Now, of course, it has a redesign, yes, but in terms of how you use it, it's very similar to what I was using before, other than these 4 tabs on the top, where you have one for today, one for all, scheduled, and flagged. So whenever you have a reminder and you mark it as something, either where it's scheduled, where you flag it, so you need to look at it, or something like that, it will categorize in one of those. But other than that, I'm not really focusing much on the rest. It's just easier to tap through here and get to the reminder that I needed to select, or just take a look at my list. And it's helpful. It's not really the design that I was expecting with iOS 13, with all the rumors that were being released, but I'd say it's a really good start to a really good Reminders app. And then the last thing is the Maps app. Now, before, I was kind of confused because when iOS 13 was announced, they were talking about, oh, now you can have favorites. What? So within the Maps app, there were always favorites in the Maps app. You just couldn't access them easily. So in order to access your favorites, you had to click on like the eye icon, and then there was a tab for favorites, but they were all like scattered all over the place. And it was based off of like the actual address, not the name. So if, for example, if I saved my grandfather's house, if I didn't make a contact from my grandfather's house, it just shows up as a weird address that's favorited. And I'm like, what is that place? With favorites now, they show up right as you open the Apple Maps app. Shows up right here. You can tap add to create one, and you can name it. So when you have an address, you can name that address. So if I have a new house address, I can add it and name it what I want, and it will save that. Apple Maps didn't really have that integration before, where it was as fluent as it is now. So it's a really nice settled change within the Apple Maps app. And it's really nice to just choose when I want dark mode in the Apple Maps app, because a lot of times it wasn't night out, but I really wanted dark mode in the Apple Maps app. This was before I had Apple Car Radio. And to be able to choose to have it is really, really helpful. But you know what's... There is one more thing that is really helpful. Liking, sharing, and subscribing to my YouTube channel and to this video. It really, really helps out, and I really appreciate all of you sticking around for really this big new era for me. There's a lot of big changes coming to not only this channel, but to my own personal life, so I do appreciate you sticking around, and I will catch y'all in the next one. Matane. This version is intended exclusively for software developers to test their apps and start adopting the new technologies in iOS. Make sure to back up your device and install only on systems you are prepared to erase if necessary. Important note for thrill seekers. If you're interested in living on the edge and trying out the great features in iOS 13, we strongly advise waiting for the many bug fixes and refinements coming to the public beta next month.